It's been over 80 years since the last World War ended. No armies marching across borders, no mushroom clouds on the horizon. On paper, we are living in the most peaceful century in human history. But that's a lie. The wars never stopped. They just got smarter. You see, in 2025, a nation doesn't need to invade another country to control it. It just needs to own its debt, its data, or its supply chains. The battlefield has shifted from land to logistics, from tanks to trade routes. Welcome to the new Cold War, where economics has replaced armies, and the winners aren't the strongest, but the most connected. So here's Chapter 1, The Silent Battlefield. The Cold War of the 20th century was loud. Missiles, nuclear tests, propaganda, spies. But the new one? It's silent. No flags, no front lines. Just invisible wars fought in trade deficits and data streams. The US still controls the dollar, the world's reserve currency. China now controls the factories, the world's production backbone. And between those two sits everyone else trying to survive the pressure. You won't see fighter jets in this war. You will see supply chain disruptions, inflation spikes, and shipping lanes under accidental maintenance. This isn't peace. This is economic warfare disguised as normality. Chapter 2, The Lesson of History. Every empire in history discovered the same truth. You can't rule forever by force. The British Empire ruled the seas, the American Empire ruled the skies. But in the modern age, power comes from systems, not soldiers. Britain's mistake was simple. They relied on colonies. America learned rely on currencies. After World War II, Washington didn't occupy territories. It occupied economies. The dollar replaced the pound. Wall Street replaced the Royal Navy. And every country that wanted to trade had to trade through America. No bullets needed, just banking systems. That's how the first invisible empire was born. Chapter 3, The Counterplay, China's Awakening. China watched all this quietly. In the 1980s, it was still poor, fragmented, recovering from chaos. But Beijing studied America's empire carefully, the global institutions, the petrodollar, the trade routes, and it made a decision that would change the next century. If you can't defeat the system, build a new one. Instead of colonizing land, China started colonizing supply chains. Instead of exporting ideology, it exported infrastructure. By 2013, the plan had a name: the Belt and Road Initiative, railways in Africa, ports in Sri Lanka, power plants in Pakistan. Every project financed by Chinese loans, built by Chinese firms, and connected to Chinese trade. On paper, they were development projects. In reality, they were arteries of influence, one port at a time. Chapter 4, America's New Weapons. Of course, Washington noticed, but here's the problem. How do you fight a war you can't admit exists? America couldn't send troops, so it started sending sanctions. Tariffs replaced bullets, bans replaced blockades. In 2018, the US targeted Chinese tech giants like Huawei and ZTE. The message was clear. We can choke your economy the same way you built it, through supply lines. Then came the chip wars. Taiwan's TSMC became the most strategic company in the world. One island, one company, holding the keys to global tech dominance. A single disruption in chip production could paralyze everything, from smartphones to fighter jets. Suddenly, trade routes looked like trenches again, and every country started picking sides, not in ideology, but in infrastructure. Chapter 5, The Rest of the World. Now imagine you're India or Indonesia or Brazil. You don't want to take sides, but you have to trade with both. If you buy cheap goods from China, you upset Washington. If you buy weapons from the US, you risk losing Chinese investment. So you start walking the tightrope. You attend BRICS summits and G7 meetings. You buy American jets, but use Chinese 5G. You call it strategic autonomy. But in reality, it's survival in an age where neutrality no longer exists. The new Cold War doesn't divide the world into East and West. It divides it into connected and dependent. Chapter 6: The Price of Globalization. For decades, globalization was sold as peace. If we all trade together, we'll never fight. But now we're learning that trade doesn't replace conflict. It just changes its shape. A country doesn't need to occupy your land if it owns your ports. It doesn't need soldiers if it owns your debt. When supply chains broke during COVID, the illusion shattered. Nations realized how fragile global peace really was. One virus shut down the entire world economy. One factory in China halted production in 30 countries. That wasn't a pandemic. That was a preview of the next era of warfare. Wars of dependence, wars of scarcity, wars without warning. Chapter 7: The Invisible Empire. Empires used to be measured in square miles. Now they're measured in market share. The US built its empire through the dollar. China's building its through logistics, and everyone else, from Europe to Africa, is trapped between these two gravitational pulls. The irony? Both sides are using the same strategy: build systems so essential that others can't escape them. The world isn't free, it's interlocked. Every country has a flag, but every economy has a leash. The question isn't who will win the new Cold War. The question is, will we even notice when it's over? Because there won't be treaties, no victory parades, no peace conferences, just silence and new rules written by whoever controls the systems. The old wars ended with signatures. The new ones end with subscriptions. And maybe, just maybe, this is how power looks in the 21st century. Invisible, integrated, and irreversible. Welcome to the new Cold War. You're already in it. Goodbye.